Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Carly from Carly's Creative Clay. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a sloth and some hibiscus flowers out of polymer clay. Every week I start off by showing you some items from my shop, and since what we're working on today, the base of the picture frame that we're going to mount them on is a black and white Makumigani design. I thought I would show some of the other things I've got in my shop that also have that same clay technique on it. If you're interested to see how I made them, the previous video was me showing how you make up that sort of clay and putting it around the picture frame. So what I've got are these drinks coasters. You get 2 in a set. The 2 Makumigani ones are £8 and the bullseye ones are £6. Each set will come with a ribbon like this. I'm going to take the ribbons off so I can show you these ones a bit better. So the black and white ones, they also have a small amount of colour coming through. This was on purpose, so that what I did was I made the coaster from like rainbow swirled clay, and then I made the Makumigani with transparent white and black, so on the transparent the colours just start to poke through. On the red and black ones there isn't any other colours coming through, it's all red and black. All the designs on each coasters are random depending on how I cut the clay, so there's several different sets of them and it's a bit of a random which ones you get, but they're all really pretty. The last set are these bullseye ones. Now they look like just plain block colours, but as I get closer, can you see each of the colours are swirled with a darker and lighter version of their own colour? So I move my finger out the way, and that goes all the way through. So right, now once I get the trinket box and picture frame that I'm about to show you and the picture frame that I'm working on, if you buy both of those I will give you a free set of coasters with that order. So that's to bear in mind, because everything I make, it generally goes in the shop. The Etsy shop obviously on the top corner just here. Right, so last week we made this picture frame. It was a plain wooden frame that I covered in clay. Hi VJP Cat, nice to see you. What I did was I baked this off, and then on the back I trimmed it up to make sure that the backing bit of chipboard can come out so people can put their pictures in easily, and I sanded it all down so it's pretty much smooth. It is going to get varnished though, but it just gives a better finish if you spend some time sanding. Start on a high, what is it, the lowest, sorry, hello, I think it's the lower the grit number the coarser it is. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, the higher means that you've got a finer sand. So I tend to go for wet dry sandpaper just because this does kick off dust, and if you do it whilst wet it's a lot easier. Right, this is what we're going to put our sloth on and hibiscus flowers. The reason why I chose a sloth and hibiscus flowers was because the leftover patterned clay from this I turned into a trinket box, and this is what I ended up doing. I'll bring it up closer.
BJP Cat just said it's backwards than what you think, the grits, which is...
Yeah, many things are. Florist wire, that's the same with the higher the number, the thinner the wire. I've got a thing for sloths at the moment. So I started out, I made the trinket box with the leftover clay. I always put a raised section so you can see.
BJP Cat says true, also electrical wire.
Yeah. Now, normally I varnish with Ronsil floor varnish, and I'm quite keen on covering the whole thing in that, and it brings up a very bright shine. But I've started using this Duraclear Gloss Varnish by Deco Art. It dries very quickly and it's completely transparent, so it's really good over white.
BJP Cat says nice box, looks great.
Thank you. I'm quite in love with it, to be honest. It isn't as bright a shine as you get from the Ronsil floor varnish, but if you're looking for varnish, you're always going to be looking for polyurethane. There are some varnishes out there that will start to melt your clay, so it becomes sticky. It never dries properly. Some of them dry completely and then a month later start going sticky. Polyurethane doesn't, so that's what you're looking for. You don't have to varnish clay unless you've done a surface treatment like mica powder or alcohol or chalk or stuff like that. But unless you polish it, you will find that it's quite matte looking, and I very much don't have the arm strength to polish clay. It looks beautiful, so I cheat and go down the gloss varnish route. Now on this Sloth box, I didn't actually varnish the sloth or the trees, just the box, the leaves, the eyes and the nose. So it can be really effective when you just pick out little bits with varnish rather than do the whole thing. So yeah, something to think about. Right, so I want to make this picture frame go with the box. So I'm going to make a sloth, put a sloth on it. I'm thinking the sloth goes down in the bottom corner and the hibiscus flowers at the top opposite corner. That's where my mind's at. First of all, make sure you got the frame up the right way round. I mean, it's not drastic if you get it the wrong way around. You just got to take it back out and switch it back over. Now, do bear in mind when you're looking at picture frames to cover that they are wood, glass and metal rather than any plastic. Anything that's got plastic involved, you can't put it through the oven very well. So either take off the plastic parts or go for a picture frame that can stand the oven temperatures. So let's put that to one side, and we're going to get going on a sloth. So the first thing we need to do is I get the clays that I'm going to use. I made up a dark brown and a beige. Your dark brown, all you need is a normal brown from any of the ranges and add a bit of black until it's a shade that you like. The beige, you start out with a decent heap of white, add a pinch of brown and a pinch of yellow. Brown on its own doesn't actually go quite beige. It's sort of yeah, it turns into a colour that I do use sometimes, but I'm not as keen on it as if you put the yellow in. So we need to start out by making the patterned clay for the fur. Can you see the fur has lots of little lines of beige in it? And I've done that instead of going over with a needle tool and actually putting the fur in. This is actually far easier. This project, if you're a beginner, don't worry, this is good enough for a beginner. It's easy enough for a beginner, I mean. Right, so you want enough to make the whole sloth. So if you picture the clay from that sloth, putting it into a ball. Now I always end up making too much pattern clay and putting it to one side. Look, I've got drawers full of it. I have a set of drawers on my desk that I put mixed up clay and pattern clay and things like that. It's worth doing. Right, so I'm going to move that out the way. We're going to roll the light colour out first into some sticks. Now put some clay to one side because you're going to need some of the light clay to make your face with. And then that's pretty much all you're going to need your light clay for. For the claws, if you get some of your light beige, take a small bit off, add an extra pinch of white so that it's just down slightly lighter. I don't know if you can see, the colours on this ain't great. It's just very slightly lighter than the face beige. So, and stick that to one side. Again, you're really not going to need a lot because you've only got the claws to do. So I've got face clay and claw clay to one side, and the rest of the beige I'm rolling out into sticks. Sorry if my voice sounds a bit gravelly. I'm really not very well today, but it's important for me to make sure that I actually keep going every week, keep doing this even if I feel unwell, which to be honest I do most weeks, but I really don't want to bore you all with me keep saying each week that I don't feel well. Right, you want your sticks to be roughly the same length. I don't think I'm going to need more clay than, yeah, no, that'll be fine. Right, onto the dark brown. You want equal amount roughly, so because I rolled out 2 sticks, I'm going to need another 2.
BJP said the cat says hope you feel better soon.
Thank you. I'm just normally a mass of viruses and something I've got wrong with me, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. Generally feels like you've got a virus most days, so it all kind of blurs into one really. But there are people far worse off than me, so it's all good. Right, 2 sticks roughly the same length. That's one lot. Break a bit off of this. That's going to need a bit more. Here we go. Right, second stick rolled out. Now you will find I have already conditioned this clay. When I first came across the term conditioning, I pictured what you put on your hair. It's not that. It's just basically kneading it a bit so that the stuff in the clay, called a plasticizer, that makes the clay soft, is mixed in properly. So it helps it to not be crumbly. So basically what I tend to do is I roll it out in sticks like this, then bring it back together and do that about 3 times and you'll find you're good to go. Right, there we go. 2 sticks, that can come off. Now, we're going to twist these together. What I do is I hold one side still and then roll the other side, and you get your spiral far easier than if you sit there doing that, because you're going to end up that motion on your wrist. It's not healthy for it, especially not repetitive. So this is far easier, but you will find you get the ends don't twist up properly, see? So you just got to pinch it there, just twist that with your fingers, but that's far less effort than doing the whole stick. To one side, onto the next one. Again, hold one side still, just roll. If you're finding you're not moving it, it's because you're pushing down too hard. You only need enough pressure to get it moving. And if you find like this, you've got a tighter twist at one end and it's looser in the middle, just move down where you're pushing and roll from there. You'll find that that works just as well to tighten up those patches. See, you can do that anywhere along your twist. Right, if it breaks, that's fine. So say, let's do it on purpose, that happens, you just push it back together and you'll find it won't notice. Now let's get my twist through properly all the way to the ends. Now these two, we're going to do the same thing again. Right, put them together. If you had 3, put the third one on top rather than next to each other. If you've got more than 2 sticks, you're going to be working in sticks of 2 and 3. Twist them together and then twist the sticks that you've already twisted. Don't try to stack them up too much because the ones in the middle won't go. Does that make sense? I think I made sense there. So yeah, just basically do more steps of twisting them into sticks than putting them into one big large amount. I never stack up more than 3 before I do a twist. So right, twisted them together, you fold it in half. Now as it starts to get bigger, it will want to shrink in that way. That's fine, that's what you want. So just let it do that. Don't try and force it to stay long. Fold in half, twist again until you can't get it to fold anymore. So about there. Now we're up into a ball. Roll that out into a rough ball. Now what I'll do is I'm going to show you the different textures you get at different amounts of twisting. So I call this a loose twist pattern. So let me get a blade, I'll cut it open and show you the design for that. You get like a very large camo print. Too large for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll that back out into a stick. You don't want to go too thin with your stick because you don't want to mix the colours completely. We're just reducing the size of them. Right, so that's about right. That's what you're looking for really. And if it's a lot of clay, you will want it to be even bigger. So hold one end and push along so that it's swirling on itself. So like you did when there was 2 sticks, but you're just doing it on itself. So now we've got more of a tight spiral. Got my cat visiting. Unfortunately, I don't have a normal cat. My cats are, I've got 2 of them. One has real aggression issues and one is highly nervous. It's kind of because I got involved in cat behaviour, I think I ended up with these 2. Right, fold it on its half again. Twist up. In half again, and you're going to keep going until you can't bend it anymore like last time. So we're back into a ball. Thank you for decatting us. He's in a grumpy old mood. He's been attacking people today. We've got a Rufus and a Bonnie. Right, so on a second go round, let's get the blade up the right way. You're on a tighter swirl. This is the one I use an awful lot in my various boxes, but we want to go one more than that because we need some very, very small lines. So we're going to bring it back out again and repeat the process for a third time. I find anything after doing it 3 times, you're just literally going to mix the colours so much that you don't see any pattern and just create a new colour. So, depending on what pattern you like is when you stop, really. So again, spiraling it on itself, make sure the ends are twisted in half, over again. So you do get quite quick at it once you've done it a whole lot, but it's not complicated. Here we are. Now,
VJP Cat says, it's kind of amazing the stripes maintain their proportion and their stripes after folding them and rolling into a wall.
I know, right? But it's the same real process as caning, but in a more random way of doing it. I do love the elasticity of clay because it means that it holds its shape whilst you're moving it into different sizes. Now again, the outside of this is already a really pretty pattern, but that's not what we're wanting. What I do is once I've smoothed it out a bit, I form it into a cube by pushing on sides like that. Then we get our tissue blade. Now whenever you want, whichever tightness of swirls you decide you want, this is the next stage to it. You roll it into a ball, form it into a cube, then we're going to cut the outside off.
VJP Cat says, I love the ball like it is.
I know, I have used it in these sorts of swirls quite a lot, but I am looking for the more random inside swirls that you get. This isn't wasted clay, because what we're going to do, once we've cut it all off, like that, we're then going to get the cube and we're going to turn it over so you've got the stripy side and the swirly side. Put the stripy side towards the clay block so that you can only see the swirls. So if you've got some sticking up bits of stripe like that, just fold it over and do that to cover your whole cube with all the slices that you've taken off, making sure the stripy side is not visible. And you will find once you've rolled it out and got all these join lines smooth, you will never cut back through and find that stripy bit. The clay is swirly wherever you want to use bits of it from. And I think I must have done this over 100 times, and I've not once have I found that bit of swirly design in cutting into it. And then you get to use all the clay and it's all got the uniform pattern all the way through, and that's what you end up with. See? Now wherever I chop into that ball, that's what it's going to look like. So, see? Same pattern. Right, and that's what we're going to make our sloth out of. So we need to get a size reference. So we need a sloth about that big, so quite a lot smaller than the sloth I made on the box. So that looks about the right amount of clay there. So this lot I can use for a million other things. So what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to take a bit of clay off for the head. Put that to one side. I'll put these brown and tan out the way. And the body clay, which will include the arms and legs, we're going to roll it into a ball. Like that. Now, we want to just slightly elongate the ball because the body is a bit longer. So it's kind of like an oval ball. Yeah?
4D says, yeah.
Hi 4D. Lovely to see you. We're making sloths. Now, take one corner and you're going to pinch it out. Sorry about that. Can you take it out?
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to.
I say about muting the phones.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, right, so we're pinching it out and we're just pulling it out to along, and we're going to go the other side and do the same thing. Pinch out. I'm barely holding it with this hand because you don't want to smudge the tummy in too much. Do the same over that side. Flip it up the other way. Again, on the top corner, slightly pulling, slightly rolling. So we get another stick, and the last one. Pull, roll, until you've got a cross with a bump in the middle. Like that. Yeah? Now, then we're going to get some leg shape going on. So I'm just slightly putting pressure on the sides without disshaping it and just coaxing it into the position that I want. And just squeezing around the back. Nothing really tight, little pushes just to form it into the shape that I want, like that. There we go. And the same for the other side, the front limbs. Just push it up like that. There we go, one sloth body. Just that simple. So he's going to end up there. Right. So once you've got it how you want it, and if you want the body longer, you can pull, you can squish the back so that you've got a more rounded shape. Just fiddle around with it till you've got yourself where you want. I think I'm going to round these legs, just make them a bit more curvy like that. And the same with the back, like this. There we go. I think that's where I want it. Right, so this is what you should end up with. Looks like a kind of stumpy fat hippo body when you're up that way, but like that. Then you decide which side you want to be the head end and which side you want to be the butt. And what you're going to do is either use a wooden cocktail stick or a bit of florist wire. I'm using some florist wire. Doesn't matter what thickness. Just poke it in. Which end do I want to be the head? I think that one looks more right. Poke it in where the head's going to go. A few centimetres. And cut it with a bit sticking off. This is going to help hold your head on because it's not the strongest joint. So we're going to work on the head now. Right. Roll your head clay into a ball. Now, and compare it to your body. That's too big. A sloth's head is actually a lot smaller than the body size, so trim it down to where you want. You can get the size right before you roll it into a ball. I find I never do. So let's roll that out. Does that look about right to me? I still think that's too big. So yeah, it takes a bit of fiddling, but it is worth getting it kind of right. Yeah, that looks right to me. Right, so we've got our ball, and then what we're going to do is we want to make that slightly oval, so we're just going to pick side, the top and the bottom, and just gently roll it so that it stretches out a bit, and then tap the sides if they're too pointy. So you still want it all to be round, but you want that shape rather than a completely rounded shape. Okay, right, sip a drink and then we'll do a face. So we're going to get some face clay. You don't need a lot because it's not a thick layer. So take yourself your pinch of clay. That'll probably do it. We're going to roll that out into a ball. Get rid of any lines so it's all smooth. Bring that out into a bit of an oval and then pinch it flat to the thickness you want your face. So I think that looks about right to me. Now decide which side you think has the most interesting designs, and the bit with the least interesting design, which I think is just that big dark brown swirl, use that to cover your clay. Use that as the bit you cover up, rather, like that. And you're only going to push the bottom half, leave the top half unjoint. See? Like that, sticking up. Because what you're going to do, get a needle tool, a cocktail stick, anything like that. You're going to find the halfway mark. You're just going to push down on the halfway a little bit and then spread it out into more of a heart shape, like that. And then you push that, the rest of it, back on to the head.
Says, hi, sorry,
hi Charlie, lovely to see you. We are making sloths today. Make sure you don't flatten the back out too much. They do have a bit of a flatness to the back of their head, but if you are not careful you can squeeze too hard joining the face colour on. But just tap it down, make sure that all the edges look how you want. There you are. We've now
says, hi, Charlie Star.
Got that. So we're on to eyes. We need some of the dark brown.
Farrah Hedgehog says, I was late too, I fell asleep. Charlie Star says, eep, sloths, my favourite.
Yeah, I think sleep is what we all want at the moment. We're pinching out two little balls, a bit bigger than what you're thinking for the eyes to actually be. These are the, can you see the brown teardrops down the side of the face? That marking is what we're doing now. So what we're going to do, two balls roughly the same size, and once you've got them the same size, you're going to pinch one side and just roll it between your fingers like that.
Charlie says, sleep is where I've just appeared from, and hey footy.
So you've now got a teardrop. Yep. I think we're all lurgied at this house. And then you're going to pinch it flat. So you've now got a little flat teardrop. Do the same with the other little ball into a teardrop shape and then pinch it flat. There we go. So the teardrop goes sideways at an angle, overlapping the edge of the white. So like that. And you do the same on the other side. Yeah, I'm all croaky today. I think I'm all virused. So you've got husky Carly. There you go. So now it looks like it's wearing sunglasses. See? And the brown goes all the way off the edge. Sorry, I'm at the top there. There we go. Like that. Now, if you have a ball tool, then you can make guide holes. You can also use a tip of a pen. Although it will leave pen marks on your clay, you're going to put a eyeball in. So it don't really matter, but you want to put a little dent where you want the eye to go, just because it helps it sit in there. If you're not able to do that, then instead of using a full little ball of black, roll out your ball, cut it in half so that it's a semicircle, and just use 2 halves. So what we need our black. We're going to pinch off 2 tiny eyes. So I reckon, there we go. That might, no, that ain't too big. That should do alright. 2 little balls, roll them out so that they're smooth. That one's slightly bigger. Now if you end up with one that's slightly bigger, technically you can get away with it because there is a health problem that can do that in sloths, but it means you've got a sick sloth. So I rather make them look healthy and not end up with an eyeball bulging. So make them the same size as much as you can. Trying to pinch off small amounts of clay is really difficult. Use a pin or a needle tool. Just set them in that little dip you've made and just pat them down gently.
Says, the first time you make an animal, do you plan it out or do you just wing it?
When I first started sculpting, what I had to do was I had to draw a plan. Now here's one I've done. Let's find one that I did for my guinea pig. Like that. Can I get it? There we go. What you do is you look at the animal in its most basic shapes. So circles, sticks, teardrops, triangles, ice cream cones, those sorts of things. And you break it down into the shapes that are simplest and then draw that out. So for a guinea pig, you've got a potato shape, 4 teardrops, little teardrops for feet that you cut toes into. It's all basically teardrops and triangles really. And on this sloth, it's lots of balls really that you break it all down into. But the more you do it, the more you start looking at things as their simplistic shapes. And now I'm at a point where I can't help but do that when I look around me in general life.
Fairy Hedgehog says, poor potato-shaped piggies.
Oh, I got 2 potato-shaped piggies and they are potato-shaped. They're so cute. I think one of my old ones was starting to actually look up when I go, hello cute fuzzy potato. I think he thought that was his middle name or something. Right, we're on to a nose. So you want slightly bigger than your eyeballs, but not massive. Roll it out into a ball, and then once you've got your ball shape that you like and it's all smooth, roll it on your hand or your surface, just literally up and down twice, just so it slightly forms an oval. And then that mounts in the middle. Make sure you got it straight so you ain't got a wonky nose. and you're going to put with your pin tool, make sure it's clean, draw in a smile. There we go.
Charlie Star says, you should do a mini intro to your piggies. Other people into their dog cats. So why not piggies?
Because I'd have to put them in the cage. With a cat or a dog, once you showed it, you can just put them on the floor and they can go do their thing.
We have showed.
We've showed video of them. So now you've got the head, you're going to push that onto that spike and put it in place. There you go. We now got Sloth. So we're going to hibiscus flower at the top. We're going to Sloth down the bottom, aren't we? So I'm going to put him in place now. Just firmly push him onto the back where you want it. So I've got the head sticking over the edge, which is what I want. Now I'm going to give it a branch to hold on to. If you've still got a cocktail stick or a bit of florist wire, it's easier to make a branch with a solid centre, because you'll find that a thinner stick will want to bow. So I'm going to measure how long I want my branch to be and just make the bit of wire or cocktail sticks slightly shorter, like that. Now put these to one side. I used a different brown for the actual wood of the tree, and to be honest I can't tell you what colours this is, because what it is my scrap clay all mixed up. You'll find when you get lots of scrap clay, if you mix it together it usually turns out brown, but it's pretty random. So get yourself a brown that you like. You're gonna make a little ball from it just because it goes on easier. Now you don't form this into the stick yet. You put it onto your bit of metal or your wooden cocktail stick first, like that. Put it into the middle and then you start to roll and bring it up into the shape you want. If you turned it into a stick shape first and then tried to thread the florist wire on, you will find that you don't go through it evenly and you end up stabbing it at the side. It's next to impossible. But especially wire that hasn't got a coating of paper around it, it slides very easily. So I'm just smoothing off the end where that hole was, where the metal poked through, like that. Then this end I'm bringing it up so that the clay is going higher than the wire, and I'm just going to pinch off in one direction like you did with a leg, and then pinch off in the other direction to make a little fork to the branch, like that. So that is already branch like. Now you can texture it first, which is what I will probably do a little bit of. So you just get your needle tool and just scratch over it. You'll find once you've textured though, you've got to be careful either to not smudge it or make sure that the texturing is deep enough that when you handle it, it doesn't just vanish. But it goes on quite quickly, especially for wood. You don't have to be that accurate. So I'm just come a bit higher up so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just putting little lines in the clay to make it look a little bit more suggestive of bark. Like this. There we go. Now, in the tips, you also want to texture there because it will look weird if you have a smooth patch when everything else isn't. So, almost there. You see, it's pretty quick. There you go. If you want, you can put a little swirly spiral on that end like that. So now you see it's a bit more textured. There's the end. So I'm going to put that in between the sloth's arms and legs. If the sloth comes off your thing, don't worry, you can always put it back on. The important thing is to not get the clay of the arms and legs to stick in the wrong place, and the face where you want it. I think I'm going to tilt the head sideways so you can see it properly. Put the branch in like that, turn this end up like this, and put a gap between the stomach and the branch, because they tend to not hold their stomach right against the wood when they hold themselves up. Once you've got it where you want it, which I think that's good. Whoops. What do you reckon? Like that. I'm going to put it back on. Push it down firmly. Then we're going to put some claws on it. Now, get your lighter colour, and sloths have 3 claws on each hand and feet, so you need 3, 6, 9, 12 claws. So 12 little balls is what you start out with. It's amazing how quickly you end up with a sloth actually. I'm always stunned when I do them, because when I first thought about making a sloth, I thought it was going to be a very difficult process, and I didn't actually watch any tutorials on it. Most of my animals I'm like that. I just sit there and fiddle until I've got an idea of a good way of doing it that's easy for me. Now, not all of my balls are exactly the same size as each other. That don't matter, because their claws are not exactly the same size as each other. Oh, I sound awful. There we go. 4 legs, 3 claw balls. Now, like you did with the eyes, you're going to do the same thing with your little ball and take it up into a point, and except it's going to be smaller and thinner. You're going to do that on all of your little balls so that they look roughly uniform, like this. There we go. Oh, how long have I been doing this for? Almost an hour. I think we'll be able to get the sloth done within 1 hour. So it's not a long project. I am going to make some hibiscus flowers from some red.
Fairy Hedgehog says, the claws are magic. I can't believe you can make anything that tiny freehand.
There are people freehanding out there making unbelievable detailed miniatures, especially if you look at Polymer clay dolls house miniatures, it'll blow your mind.
Charlie Star says, I'm equally amazed, Fairy.
There are cakes that look like you would be so happy to have them on your table, except they're made from polymer clay and they're about the size of a 1p piece. I don't get it. These people are wizards, I'm sure of it. Yeah, I think this is about as small as I get. I mean, some of those flowers were pretty small. And I will show you how to do the small ones, but the ones on here I'm going to do slightly bigger. So there we are, one more ball to do, and then we've got claws. That is a bit chunky at the tip. There we go, that's a bit better. Now you can do it on your glass board just by rolling on the side like that, but I have found it can make the tip crumble a bit by doing that if it's not properly conditioned. So I tend to pick them up with a ball tool like that, and then I start in the middle. That is far too long, and then realise that you've made all your claws too long. There you go. Luckily it's easy enough just to pinch the tips off to the right length that you want. Told you I was viral. There we go. That looks about right. This is where I like to do live streaming, so you can see that there are mistakes made and they're easy to get around, and even the most experienced players have to go back and have a refiddle.
Charlie Star says, "Ooh, Carly, while looking for something for myself on eBay, I found something you may find helpful for practicing different faces. They do a set of silicone moulds of all different blank face shapes. I'm not saying use them to make your faces, but I thought it would give you a better idea of different head face shapes when you're practicing making yours."
That does sound useful. I will message you about it. I know people who have been using them in the clay world to great success, but I'll probably only need them for a short while if I did get them, so I'd probably be able to give them away once I've got an idea. At some point I will tackle human faces, but so far oh god, I sound croaky. So far I've found it's the one thing that people notice when you've got even slightly the wrong proportions. So mine tend to look a little bit weird, but I will definitely be working on focusing on doing humanoids, because I want to get involved with mermaids and fairies. So I'm just tapping the claws on and bending them over where they need
Charlie
to
Star
go around
says,
there.
"Yay, cool. I know you're never going to use them to make moulds, but
No, it's a good idea though.
Creating those shapes, I thought they'd help.
They really
I'll
would.
talk to you later about them."
Cool. Right. So I'm just tapping these claws on. I'm starting on the middle of the paw. You can use your fingers to place them and tap them in place, but I find my fingers just are too chunky. I know there are miniature workers out there who do use their hands for placement, and I don't know how they manage it. I think I would love to have fingers half the thickness that mine are currently.
Fairy Hedgehog says, "I think sloths are one of your best creations."
You say that about all my creations though. I love them, but then I love everything I do as well.
Charlie Star says, "I think sloths are one of the best creations in general. They're so cute."
They are, yes. But you got to make, there's a few different types of sloth, and you're going to have to make sure that you get the amount of claws right, because people do notice when you've done one that's got the wrong claws. I think this one, is it a Bradipus? I'm not very good on my sloth. I know there's two-toed and three-toed, and there's subcategories of each. There's ones that have got like little piggy noses. haven't made one of them yet, but I am putting my mind to it on how to do so. One of the things I have thought of that I might make a new range of is, you know how you get charitable ribbons like breast cancer and Down syndrome and various ones like that? They all have their own coloured ribbon. Well, I'm thinking about doing a dragon in the colour of the ribbon with a ribbon around it somewhere, so that it's a awareness for some of the more popular ones.
Charlie Star says, no, both two and three-toed are cute to me. Though yes, a platypus with two toes would look kind of funny.
There we go. You generally don't need a needle tool unless you do what I've just done and stuck two claws together. There we are.
Dragon idea sounds awesome though. That was Charlie.
Thank you. Right, so we now have claws in place. And it's stuck on. So lastly, how I did the swirly for the body, I've done the same thing for some greens and some yellows. This is the mix that I used. So we got a sort of olivey green that I've also put black in. I've used the light green, a deep red, a copper and a gold.
Putting your fingers in the way.
So there we go. That mix. And swirled it all up like I did with the body, and that's the block of clay that I get. This is what I'm going to make my leaves from. So let's move all those offcuts of claws that I didn't need out of the way, and that brown out of the way. Now, leaves are pretty simple. Cut yourself a slice, cut them into the size you want your leaves to be. Now, you can either roll it into a ball, and let's do both ways. Roll it into a ball like that, and then pick two sides, pinch, roll it so that it's now kind of diamond shape, and then flatten down like that to the thickness that you want. You can even put a line through the middle and a couple of leaf veins like that. The other way around of doing it is when you got your slice like that, put it on your glass table and just push in two of the points, flat down, pick up. So you end up with the same sort of thing. Two ways of doing it. Again, put a line down the middle, a couple of leaf veins in. Now, I want about 3 or 4 to go at the end of the branch. Like that. I watched such an interesting documentary today on how they train a group of farm goats to be yoga goats. Now, I didn't know yoga goats was a thing. What it is people doing yoga with a bunch of tiny goats jumping around them and nuzzling them and generally interacting whilst they do yoga. But you can't just get a flock of goats and let them loose in with a group of yoga people. They will just be huddled at the corner furthest from the people practicing. So you have to train them, and that involves getting them used to people who are not their normal owners, and getting them used to people doing yoga around them, doing these funny positions, being down on the floor like that. I mean, that's all completely unknown to them. So basically, before you get a paying audience in, you get a load of people to come and do yoga around them over several months and let them get used to that, and then you get your paying clientele in. And it's so cute. They're really, really cute. They hop up on you and everything. I'm going to place the leaves where I want them at the end of the branch. So can you see? Once I've got them in place, I will hold it up. You can twist them a little so they don't look like they're completely 2D flat thing. Just push them on. I know there's a lot of people who have a whole lot to say about using bacon bond and liquid clay instead of just mounting raw clay onto baked clay. What I've found, it's not actually, let's be honest about it. I've tried it. I found it made the clay slip about, and it didn't stick it any better than if you just push down firmly. You just need to push it down a bit more firmly than you do when you're adding raw clay to raw clay. And if all else fails, there's a video on my YouTube about how to use 2-part epoxy glue, which I think is the best kind of glue to use with your clay. Right, this way up. Here we go. We now have a sloth on a tree with some leaves. So he's done, and we're 2 minutes over an hour. So let's do some hibiscus flowers quick. For that, you need some cherry red, so it's the medium red in Fimo, and I've got some ochre clay. Now I'm going to do 3 flowers in the top corner. The ochre's for the centre of them, so you really don't need a lot. Just put that out of the way, and that should do it. I won't even need that. I'm going to roll into little balls like that. This is the stamen in the middle of the flower. The reason why I'm doing this first is because if I handle red and then I handle ochre, the red is going to come off onto the ochre. I find, other than black, red is one of the colours that come off onto your hand the most. So I always try and keep it somewhere near the end. From your little ball, you're going to pinch out into a little teardrop. Then either use a needle tool or a ball tool. Poke a centre or hole, and you'll find if you twist the clay, it doesn't split the ball. It doesn't split what you're putting the ball tool through. And I'm pushing on the tool and using my thumb to roll it so that that hole becomes bigger, like that. Yeah, so you've now got like a little hollow tube, and you can shape that into a thinner stamen if you want, but that's the basic shape you're looking for. I'm going to do 3 of those, so let's do the others quicker. I'll do this one with a needle tool so you can see that you can do that. So into the middle, I'm not going all the way down, I'm stopping about there. Yeah, So halfway down. Pushing on the side. As you can see, I don't know if you can see this, as you push on the side, the hole gets wider. Yeah? Like that. Then I'm going to make that a bit thinner and that bit more wider out. Right, okay. Last one, then I'll get on to petals. And petals is pretty simple. I'm going to show with a ball tool and without a ball tool way of doing petals. On this, it's significantly easier to have a range of ball tools when you're doing flowers. It just is. But it is possible to do them without. Oh, itchy nose. I don't know if it's just me. When I get a virus, I sneeze all the time. Right. Take off some lumps of clay, roughly to the size of the petal that you want. You want about 5 petals per flower. 2, 3, 4, a bit bigger, 5, like that. Right, roll them into balls. Like this. I'm going to do the more complicated without using any ball tools one first, and then show you how much easier it is when you use them. Right, each of your balls you're going to pinch and elongate so that it is roughly the shape you want your petal. Slightly thinning to the bottom, thicker at the top. So 5 of those sort of teardrops. You can also make more of a teardrop shape like you've done before and pinch it flat like that and pull it out. You'll find which way is right for you. Yeah, there's a saying out there that if you do something 100 times, you'll find your own technique of doing it and style. That's how you perfect anything, is do it 100 times. I'm getting there with dragons, I think. I'm sure of it. Right, 5 petals. Now, you're gonna just slightly, this is it, right, we're gonna lay it out and we're gonna slightly overlap the tips, so 2 opposite each other, 1 to the top, 2 down the bottom in a rough sort of star shape. Push the ends on. Now, if it's firmly stuck to your board, use your blade to release it, like that, and you've got that, which looks kind of scruffy, but it's fine. Get your middle bit, put it in the center where you've joined everything, and then just use your fingers to make a cup sort of shape and just bring those petals up around the stamen like that. Push that down, and then you can start to bring them out and lay them how you wish. See? Now, so you've got a flower. We'll get onto the leaves in a second. I'll show you it with a ball tool. So let's 2,
Charlie Star says that's so
3.
cool.
Yeah, it's the most basic flower. 5.
Charlie Star says the flower that is.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3. I'd love to have goats. I like the little pygmy fainting goats. They, whenever they have strong emotions, they faint. And it isn't just fear, it's when they're very happy, when they're surprised, when they are excited, any strong emotion, they faint. And it's only for a few seconds and then they jump back up and are absolutely fine. They were bred to do this because what they were used for was that herds of farm animals would... One more. I'm not doing free flowers, am I? That's what happens when I talk and don't pay attention to what I'm doing. There we go. Right, herds of farm animals would have a couple of fainting goats. So if a wolf or a lion or some predator came along to try and predate their herd of cows, the goat's more likely to faint and be the prey. And they were cheaper. It's harsh. It really is harsh. But they're not generally used like that so much, especially in the UK where we've the most predator we've got nowadays is a fox.
Hearty Life says that doesn't sound very practical.
When you've got no other means of dealing with your local lion, you know, needs must. We're just really lucky that we've got
Hearty Life says, oh my goodness. I'm not sure what.
Yeah. This was back early farming. Not sort of early, right back at the beginning, because that was, what was it? Up by in ancient Egypt. They were farming. But yeah, pretty old school farming where all you had really was you and a stick to try and get your predators away from your herd. But now they're kept as pets. They are a really popular breed. And the old ones, especially the older females, learn to stand near things where when they faint it props them up, so usually like trees, that sort of thing. And the young ones just climb over everything and faint from great heights, and it's hilarious. But they're all built like little tanks, so they're pretty good at falling around and being fine.
Hearty Life says, I was thinking it was impractical from an evolutionary perspective before you explained that the little poor sods were bred for it.
Yeah, it's not evolutionary. Actual goats, their evolutionary niche is up a mountain. And that's why, especially out in Africa, goat herders take their goats to the nearest really big tree and the goats climb the tree. They like being high up. Their hooves are like little chisels, so they dig into the surface that they're climbing on. And you can actually see film footage of mountain goats on completely sheer cliffs. Sometimes, you know when you've got the cliff bit that sort of bulges out, they will run upside down to get over the bulge from underneath. They don't care. Their hooves wedge in really fine. They have their brand new newborn babies. They don't even take them to an area that's, you know, sort of easy start out. You watch them playing around on these massive drops. You're like, can't watch.
Hearty Life
And they're fine.
said, lol, age brings wisdom with regards to the fainting.
Yeah.
And then I do like listening to your wildlife talks too.
Thank you. But yeah, when I very first saw a load of goats up a tree, I was like, that's got to be photoshopped. And I looked into it. Nope. If you lost your flock of goats, look up. Must be interesting trying to get them back down off the high ones. Right, what I'm doing is I'm getting 2 of my ball tools. Now I've got these big sets as well as the really sort of tiny thin ones, and it's the big ones that you're going to need. So you want a ball tool that's about the base of the flower size, and I'm using this one to just carve a little dent out of the middle. Actually, that might even be too small. Where's my next one? There we are. I use my ball tools so much.
Little Monkey Spaz says, I got distracted and forgot what day it was, and time, but I'm here.
Hey, that's alright. It's only me that's agreed to be here every Wednesday at 5, and to a lesser extent my hubby doing my techie work. Thank you for the digital microscope. We haven't gotten round to working out how to use it yet because we've all been down with the lurgies, but we totally will, I promise you, and we're really grateful
Evil
for
Monkey
it.
Spaz says, but I wanted to be here is the point.
Ah, right. Well, thank you. You've kind of missed me making a sloth. We got that far with it. So
Evil Monkey Spaz says, boo to the lurgy.
yeah, and it's in summertime as well. It's totally unfair. So I'm just, can you see, I'm just rounding out the middle and making the petals just curve a bit. You can do that via pinching though.
Evil Monkey Spaz says, yay, sloth.
Yep. I did make this sloth box already and varnished up, and I wanted to make a picture frame to go with it.
Hearty Life says, yeah, I don't seem to be able to keep track of what day it is either.
It's a common problem that I'm also a member of the club with. So we're just using a ball tool just to bring the flowers
says, I saw
into
online
a round.
earlier, it is awesome. As in with regards
Yeah,
to the box.
I really love it. And I was talking on one of the clay groups yesterday with a woman who's new to clay, and she was absolutely convinced that they must be really, really difficult to make, and I was like, nope, I promise you, they're simple.
Hearty
They
Life
really are.
says, relieved you were here when I got here. You were still here when I got here.
Yeah, thank you. I love having you guys. I feel very, very lucky to have such a supporting group of friends. You are all my friends. I'm really lucky for it. Right, so I made them
Evil Monkey Spaz says, I second that motion.
just a slight dip in the middle, just so that they're a bit more 3D. Then we're going to get the big ball tool, and instead of doing it flat, we're going to lay them over the tool with the ball in the middle, and it just helps you get that curve a little easier. So 4 and 1 more like that. Then you can pinch the end, and now you've made a little flower hat for your ball tool that you just twist. If you try and pull, you're liable to bring the clay off. If you twist it, it unsticks really well. Then you can put your stamen into the middle like that and start to spread out the petals like that. But can you see, just by rounding the petals a little, just gives it slightly more shape and depth than on the flat ones. Yeah, so quickly make up the last one of the flowers that I'm going to use. I always find it's easier to do the two opposite as your base for your petals and then start filling in the spaces afterwards. The other English, Carly, you've been speaking it all your life, I'm sure of it. Well, English-ish. I've been speaking Cockney. But yes, right. So long as they're all stuck together, it's pretty much fine. There we are. Put the stamen in the middle. Make sure it's attached in properly. And then position my petals so that they don't look as crazy as they do currently. There we are. That'll do it. Like that. Right. Back to our green leaf clay. Now, cut myself a slice. You want some really small ones because we're going to do 4 little leaves at the base to make that, you know, the little leaf cup that the petals sit in. So like that. And again, just form them into leaf shapes. Either you can roll them into balls and bring them out into that shape and then flatten them, or do what I'm doing and just push on to the sides to make them into the leaf shape on the board, like that. So there we go. We don't need a line down the middle of these ones or veins because you don't have that on, what is it called? The 4 little petals, the 4 little leaves at the base of the petals. I used to be really good at plant biology. Right. Now, we're gonna, let's see. Can you see? We're gonna form these into a
Sepals. Arty life.
Ah,
Life
there we
says
go.
sepals.
Into that little cross shape of leaves. Make sure that the middles are overlapping so that they're stuck together like that. Use my blade to bring them up off the glass board. Now, here's the fiddly bit. Get your flower, put it so that the base is in the middle of that little cross, and then just bring the leaves up around that, the base of the flower, and just pinch the ends a little so that it forms how you want. So now you got that. See? Right. Rinse and repeat for 2 more. Well, rinse, you know, that's the shampoo instructions, but there you go. Right. So we need...
Hedgehog says, at Arty Life Live, you got there first, and Arty Life Live says, I'm Silicon first.
Right, so we need 8 more little leaves, but again they come up quickly. 2, 4, 6, 8, and leave yourself some extra clay to make some leaves to go around the flowers.
Charlie Star says, I'm back. I'm
Hi.
sorry.
Did you go? Did your computer crash out, Charlie Star? The internet is not that great at the moment. We've had issues.
Glad I didn't miss too much.
Oh no, I discovered that the leaves at the base of a flower is a sepal, which we're learning it all the time. I had no idea about that one. But that's what we're making at the moment, sepals.
Charlie Star said, I had to run off quickly.
Cool. No worries. Here we go. I know it's a bit repetitive, but I'm trying to be as quick as. Right.
Charlie Star says front door went.
Ah, cool. And if you decide you guys, any of you like the trinket box or the picture frame, they will be in my shop pretty shortly. Maybe not today, well, doubtful it's going to be today because I'm going to have to bake and photograph the picture frame. But they're going in. I think the trinket box is going to be 35 and the picture frame probably either 30 or 25. Not sure yet. I've got to cost it up with the material of the picture frame. But they will be available to have a really nice forever home. There we go, stack them into their little cross shape. Like that. How have I ended up with too many? Apparently I can't count to 8. Oh. There we go. Well, I'm demonstrating today that more things go wrong than what it's normally shown on these videos. It's all okay. You can fiddle your way through most problems with these things. That's one of the things I love about clay, is how much it is easy to fix your mistakes, and if you can't fix it, you can turn it into something else. I don't think I've ever wasted any clay. No, the only time I waste any clay is if it gets stuck to plastic that has reacted with the clay and melted, so you end up with a plastic clay oozy mess. That I throw.
Charlie Star said lol, but I'm not quite sure what that's in context to.
Right, just getting my clay out of the way because I need to clear the decks to make some leaves. Right, going to use the rest of the green to make some nice big leaves to put behind those flowers. Like that. That looks a bit chunky. There we go. I'm sorry my conversation is not at its greatest today. My brain is still in my sick bed. But I'm here and I'm showing off the joys that is sloth making. Because it's worth it. Right.
Charlie had said the front door went. 4D said, "Where did it go, Charlie?" And Charlie said, "Lol." I had completely went over my head.
Do you know what though? That whole thing about where did the front door go? I have seen this happen. Someone, I'm not naming any names because I'm not gonna incriminate anyone, but when they were a teenager, their deposit was not paid back to them by their landlord. Their landlord stiffed them for it. So they went in the middle of the daytime and took his front door off and left with that. It's surprising how difficult it is to find an emergency front door. Especially one that fits. Especially in the East End of London on a Sunday night. I hear the landlord spent the night sleeping next to the open front door that was only covered in cardboard until they could get someone in the next day.
Artie Life says lol. Charlie Star says that's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's I'm not going to go into how you do that, but it's actually surprisingly easy to do it, especially even if the front door happens to be locked at the time.
Does it count as breaking and entering if you steal the door and don't enter?
You don't enter. It's not breaking and entry. It's theft. It's definitely theft. But yeah, there you go. You know, the landlord was also thieving as well. things that you do when you're young, and it wasn't me. I know the process of it, but I grew up in a rough area. That's all I can say. I grew up in a rough area. But I was like, so was the door unlocked then? How did you deal with all the deadbolts? And yeah, he went through it, and my eyebrows went through me hairline, going, that shouldn't be that simple.
The 4D has got lolling smileys, so you can.
Yeah. I think the stupidest one I've ever heard of, this was back when I worked doing benefits, was someone who got caught. What they did was they found a truck in a lay-by and it had Scotch written on the outside, and they nicked it thinking it's easy to shift a load of Scotch, and it turned out to be Scotch tape. And instead of just cutting their losses, they still tried to flog it. And the police obviously went round a local car boot and found a guy with a couple of 1,000 rolls of Scotch tape on a stall, with no good explanation on how he got said Scotch tape. Some of them are really, really intelligent people. But there you go. Right, in amongst all that stupidness, I've been pinching these out into leaf shapes and putting in some lines on them. Yeah, I kind of missed my days back doing all that. Working with I was working with customers in a benefits agency, and some of the stories were very interesting, very fascinating. But I have to be careful on who I tell and what I tell, and no actual info of the people, because I'm not getting in trouble for any of this. And at the end of the day, just because you hear a story don't mean it actually happened. Right. Leaves. So I'm going to start to put some shape into these leaves so they don't look so flat, and just start to make a nice spread of them in the corner. Like this. Because you can put them on flat if that's what you really want, but I find they look more interesting when you put a bit of a twist on them and some wrinkles. So let's do that. Do a little fold in there. There we go. Like that. Let's put some wrinkle in there. Now, I'm going to build that up even more with these two. So that's the leaves on. Yeah. And then I'm just going to get the one where I haven't put any bumps on. That can be at the back. Like that. And just put the other two in front. Like this. Now, what do you reckon? It's got a floral and a sloth.
That's great to me.
Now I'm going to bake this up, and I'm going to probably varnish the flower, the back, the leaves and the eyes and nose, and leave the branch and the sloth unvarnished like I did with that box, and they can go together then. So I'm gonna call it a night, and hope you all have a great week. If you make any sloths or any flowers, do share pictures of them with me. I really look forward to seeing your work. Like, follow, share, all the good things that really help me out, and I really appreciate. I will see you same time again next week. I think next week, unless I come up with something else, I'm either going to make a dragon to put in a little cage that I've got, or I'm going to cover a hippo in canes. Not sure which. If there's any preference you guys have, do message me and let me know. But there we go. That's the picture frame standing up. And it's all good. Bye everyone. Have a great week. I'll see you soon.